this is such an interesting conversation to have about the issue of not guilty by reason of insanity, what our judicial system does. But as a psychiatrist, it sounds like from watching you this morning on Fox, you thought the actions of Eddie Ray Routh were such that this was a deranged, mentally ill guy, right?
Well, you know, here's somebody who doesn't come to these events naively. He was hospitalized several times in the VA system. He has a history of psychosis. It goes largely uncontested that he believed that people at his workplace were intent on eating him, that one of the pieces of machinery there was a giant rotisserie, that he believed that pig people or something related to pigs was going to take over the earth. And so it's not a stretch to say the man wasn't well. And beyond that, I believe it's part of the record that they were texting from the gun range saying this guy is, you know, out of his mind.
That's right. In fact, the evidence, and this, of course, I thought would have been a strong blow against the prosecution. Chris Kyle himself texted to the other victim next to him, Chad Littleton, hey, this guy's bat blank crazy. The other victim said, watch my back. You know, this guy's sitting right behind me. So they both knew something was... You know, the funny thing is, Dr. Ablow, I so agree with you in terms of the inconsistencies we have in our court system with mentally ill people who commit acts of violence. But I think you and I both can accept the fact that we're sort of in the minority in that most Americans see a heinous crime, a crime of violence like this perpetrated against somebody. They don't want to hear not guilty by reason of insanity. There's no way that this country would be satisfied with a not guilty by reason of insanity verdict in this case. This guy was an American hero. He's just been immortalized in the movie and in the book. I think it's a judicial problem, not a mental health problem. We ought to have guilty but mentally ill in this country.
We need a different paradigm, or perhaps it's guilty but mentally ill. Perhaps it's that jurors are allowed to know, which they're not currently, how long it's likely that somebody like Mr. Routh would stay in a locked psychiatric facility, which is perhaps 20 or 30 or more years. So I think they have the fantasy, man, you know, it could be 30 days. He could be out. He could go home today. It's never like that. But beyond that, you know, we know that we have a broken mental health care system. We know that the prisons have become de facto psychiatric hospitals, right, for people who are violently ill. Accent the word ill. And, you know, we may take temporary, solace in saying, see, he's guilty and he's going to jail for life. Well, yeah, but that leaves aside the fact that someone really screwed up treating this guy.
We hear this refrain so often. That guy didn't get the help he needed. You know, and indeed there were reports that this guy's family said, don't keep this guy institutionalized. Keep our son. He needs help. Don't let him out. Don't let him come home from the hospital he's being treated. This guy's got issues.
I would venture that Chris Kyle would be unhappy with the verdict.
Really?
And I would venture that because I believe he would say, you know what, we've got a shattered system of mental health care for veterans. It's a national abomination. The suicide rate among veterans is unconscionably high. We're not deploying mental health care services, and it's not going to be on my back or on my legacy that people get to feel a little better because vengeance has been served when our system is broken. Here's a guy who stood up for America and did what was required. What's required now is fixing the VA and fixing our mental health care system, not putting one sorry soul behind bars for life.